Welcome back everyone. I survived 101 days in Project Zomboid as a stripper with 0 skills, these traits, and today we continue that adventure. If you haven't watched the first video, I strongly suggest you go and check it out first before watching this one. Along the way we endure hunger, loot set to rare, and of course insane zombie populations. Like before, there will be twists and turns that not even I expected. Eventually, I want this character Hannah to make it all the way to the strip club in Louisville to burn it to the ground. But first, we have to cleave a path there and do anything to survive. This is how I survived for 202 days in Project Zomboid as a stripper from 0 to hero. We start out running for an airdrop just north of the base. Before I could get to it, however, a raider scout jumped me. Luckily, I was prepared. After so much gunfire the past few days, there were more zombies than usual. Because of the recent attacks, I wanted to close up any holes in our defenses and literally put up doors around our base. Suddenly, just after sunset, we were being attacked by raiders. I suppose their scout didn't return and they had to retaliate. Then I saw her. It was the group, the others, being led by Yvonne. I think she was still bitter about not joining us on day 2 all that time ago. Yvonne. There were zombies approaching from the woods I had to deal with, but then once I had checked the perimeter... No! Gavin was dead. That was Yvonne. I buried my longtime friend, built his cross, and loaded my magazines before laying in bed that night. Day 103. After preparing for our adventure, it was finally time to head off. I knew of a cluster of metal wrecks on the road north out of Muldrow, so I wanted to clear it up with the hope of eventually progressing towards Louisville. I expected a few zombies, but I wanted to keep this adventure as quiet as possible and began dismantling the cars. I found this sweet Nissan though, and it was in pretty rough shape, but she could prove an interesting side project down the line. I finally finished dismantling the cars just before 7 PM that night. I wanted to see how close I was to the diner and gas station, but as it turns out there was a lot of zombies there that I had to deal with, so I made a U-turn and set up camp in the road. The temperature was decent by the fire, but winter was definitely soon approaching. I warmed up by the fire and decided to show you all my skills I had acquired so far. And my kills of 11,608 zombies so far. Just before midnight I huddled up next to those fire embers and slept as well as I could in the road. Day 104. I woke up just after 5 AM today while just short of freezing my lady nuts off. I packed up my camp and went forward with yesterday's mission to clear the road. It did not take me long, however, to get swarmed by zombies. With my car door shield and a machete, I got to work clearing the area of the undead. Showing off my combat skills, I tore through hundreds of zombies, no problem. Then after a few hours I realized just how many zombies there were at the gas station. So I pulled out my rifle and started using it instead. This was giving me baby army base vibes though, and I could handle this small pocket of zombies. When the area around the road was mostly clear, I started dismantling the wrecks, but ever so often I would get attacked by a rude neighbor, or 10. Just before 9 PM I was done with the wrecks, but had bigger problems. I was out of water and feeling a little gnaw. I knew of a small room with a sink adjacent to the gas station shop, but I should have expected the locals would want to eat my face off. After I had filled my water bottles, I wanted to fill up my gas cans and propane torches, but there was constant small waves after me. At midnight, the undead caught me with too much weight, and I had to tactically retreat. Day 105. I had my closest encounter with a zombie yet today because I was carelessly stupid. I found a generator running, but all the people were dead. My guess is someone needed the lights on, because all the boxes were empty, unfortunately. I explored the station a little more, killing anything I saw, and I wanted to see what was up with this diner. But it was empty for the most part. I wanted this trailer for sure though, extra space is always welcomed with the way I loot and scoot. I hooked it up in record time and wanted to finish filling up all my gas cans I had found the past few days. Finally that morning I was back on my way home. I reversed into position and started offloading. I was talking with Stefan inside when I heard shots outside. It was a raider. But I heard a car alarm in the distance. I sprang to investigate. That's when I found them. A group of cultists jumped me with katanas. Luckily, 5.56 rounds will stop any Bible punches at my doors. Their car was locked, so I had to break in the window, and afterwards I wanted to do a patrol around my base to ensure there was no more surprises waiting for me. I looted their bodies and was back to managing the loot. Day 106 was a short day. I finished organizing my loot, oiled my dirty bandages, reloaded my magazines, and finished up my exterior fence gates. I didn't want any more raiders just waltzing in. Day 107. I woke up disgustingly early and read a metalworking book. After returning the book to my library, I wanted to finish up the fence by the road. Then I saw Jennifer's body laying there lifeless. I heard no gunshots, so either she was murdered by someone on the inside of our group, or she just couldn't anymore. I buried her and forgave her for all the trouble she made all that time ago. She had fulfilled her promise to protect us. I was picking out books for our next reading marathon before cooking up some meals, when suddenly an overwhelming feeling of panic set in. I immediately geared up because we were being attacked again. Rushing to the defenses, I only saw the remains of the attackers. They were scientists in hazmat gear. Day 108, I tried on some fresh clothes more suited for winter and began reading. Day 109, we read and we ate stew. I don't know what else to tell you. Day 110, we read some more until I was virtually starving and I had to eat some veggies to sustain life. No really, brother, I can't believe I wrote that. Sustain life? What? Day 111. Just more reading, folks. Day 112. At 7:30 AM, I finally finished the last book and decided I had earned myself a proper rest. I had recently read how to scrap broken car parts into useful metal, so I got the rust bucket that was on the road outside the base and wanted to practice on it in the shop. I repurposed these barricades from the cultists so I wouldn't ram my fence at Mark Jesus anymore. When I was cleaning up the trash, I found Rotland. She was dead, and I didn't know why. Maybe there really is a killer in my walls. I buried her and put her favorite baseball bat on her grave. May she swing it long into the night. That night I couldn't sleep, so I worked on my rust bucket, practicing my mechanic skills. Day 113. Today, while I was working on my mechanic skills, I heard shots, and they were close to the base. I ran outside, but I failed my investigation roll until I heard a scream below me. It was the hazmat people, literally on top of the base. I tactically dealt with them, and I knew I had to do a patrol around the perimeter. At first there was only a few zombies, but this is the reason we do patrols, people. I grabbed this bucky and made for home. By sunrise I was training my mechanics again, wondering how much time until the next attack. I went to bed early tonight because if these attacks persisted, we might have no choice but to hunt down their leaders, or move. Day 114. Today I woke up really early to make my way north to try to secure the fuel pumps between Maldro and West Point. A little after I got there, a helicopter crashed nearby, so I went to check it out. There was a horde of undead around the Mogadishu situation though, so I got ready for a fight. If I wanted the supplies on that helicopter, then I would have to work for them. And the horde was cutting off my way home, so 2 birds, 1 stone really. I subdued the area, looted the compound, and made my way to the garage. Day 115. After fueling all of our cans, I checked out some of the cars around the garage and found this cool white bucky. I decided to take the bucky home, but because it just kind of looked nicer, in my opinion. On my way home, I spotted a survivor, Declan, who I invited to join the group. Once I was home, I was sorting out loot when I saw we had new neighbors. I was gonna be friendly, but she attacked me with an axe. A minor firefight broke out and I had been shot in my neck. Out of pure panic, I walked home. Oh my god, I've been shot in my neck. I need to get back. Oh, shit. How the fuck am I gonna live through this? Took off my bloody clothes, washed myself off while I waited for the bleeding to stop. I had to take out the bullet though, and my poop hole was so small, bro. I thought I'd leave a gift for our new neighbors. Oh, beautiful shot, boy. Hey? Oh yeah. That's a good one. Day 116. I was patrolling around the base with Declan and Stefan when we happened across a band of raiders massing by the storage containers. I got shot some more. Once they were dead, I performed first aid in a storage container. I looted their bodies and we hopped in this black car so I could work on my mechanic skills at that evening. Then we were attacked again by the others close to midnight. Day 117. The firefight lasted around an hour, but I was hurt. I burnt the bodies, but we had lost friends. Stefan, Declan, and Shona. I feel like I'm burying more friends than anything these days, and I don't like how easy it's becoming. I started gearing up for a trip. I needed a holiday from Maujo, and all these annotated maps, I could check them out on my way. I patched my clothes and armored my car before sleeping tight in my bed for my trip. Day 118. Filling up at the garage, I wanted to check out an airfield that wasn't too far away. There was a disgusting amount of undead though, and once I had broke into the fence, looking back now, I should have just turned away. Once the sun set, I returned to my car so I could set up camp. Day 119. I'm gonna keep it short because as an architect, I feel shame. A lot of shame. Built a god-awful cabin. Day 120. I wanted to investigate the airbase further, but... Nope! After noping out of there, I was on to investigate the bridge by West Point, but I passed through hordes of zombies just outside the town. I went all the way to the Kentucky version of Tolton when I spotted this huge moving trailer. I shifted the undead first with the car and then I kited them away on foot. I ran down to hook up that sweet, sweet trailer and I was out of there. I was smiling all the way back, but when I've returned to the edge of West Point, I found myself in the worst case scenario. I'm in trouble. I'm in a lot of trouble. I'm in a lot of trouble. Oh my god, don't go backwards. I managed to pull a move out my ass and hop out the car, which otherwise would have been a death sentence. Very, very lucky. Oh my god, I can't believe I got out. Holy shit. I fought long into the night, and once I was done, the wheels of my bucky and trailer were toast, but the engine was good. Shit. I reloaded my magazines in the trailer and slept there that night. Day 121. I made my way to the West Point garage to see if I could find a tire pump and new wheels for the bucky and trailer. Apart from a few zombies, the area was relatively quiet. And that's when I saw her. A bulldozer. My heart started to pump with excitement and my mind was racing with ideas. I still wanted the tires to fix the car, so I managed to get the fresh pair from a van and a sedan close by. I have a diabolical plan. I filled up the bulldozer and got to work clearing the road. I even put on some Bob Marley for fun. Day 122. I ran out of petrol around 2 AM, but was close to the garage and still needed a tire pump. I hopped in my blue off-road I left there some days ago and trekked back home to resupply. I started loading up my trailer with ammo and guns so I could work my way into West Point. Experience told me that I would need an assload of bullets to cleave a path to make an outpost. I woke up from a nap and continued loading up the car. Day 123. With the first snow of the year at 3 AM, I was eating an MRE when I heard an explosion in the base. There was a fire. Oh my god! Oh no! My home! My base had been set ablaze, I think, by the others. All my gear was ash.
No.
I grabbed my fire extinguisher and tried to save what I could. Oh shit. My house. Ah! What the fuck? I saved as many carrots as possible and moved my army truck out the way. I tried to save as many weapon parts as possible, but I had caught fire myself. Oh. I was low on health and I lost most of, if not all, my guns anyways. The roof was on fire now, so I moved my car to the road hoping it would be safe. I started loading up any remaining loot into duffel bags and piling them in the courtyard. Luckily, all my materials and tools survived the fire. I had to stop for a moment to gather myself and contemplate my next move. After losing all faith in myself, I told my crew I just couldn't protect them anymore. That was when Katrina yelled at me that she set the fire. She had murdered all my friends all along. She was a spy for the others, so I executed her. I loaded the duffel bags into an army truck and went to get a supply drop. I needed it more than ever right now. I also needed that big trailer that's sitting outside West Point so I could have options of what to do. Day 124. I was taking my bike to get the trailer, and testament to my great luck these past few days, I had a crash. I installed the tires and promptly pumped them up. I took out the contents of the trailer and left them on the side of the road. Oh. I went to sleep at 1 PM that afternoon and got to installing metal cupboards in the trailer to transport all my stuffs. Day 125, while I loaded up my gear, I can tell you that I had drawn up plans to build a house outside West Point. Day 126, I loaded up the last of my loot and drive up the garage between West Point and Muldrow. Day 127, I went looting for clothes at a convenience store and investigated around the area again for useful loot. I had to worry about stuff I hadn't had to worry about in a long time now, like water jugs. I washed myself off in a bathroom in the garage store and opted for an early night's sleep that afternoon. Day 128. I woke up at 1 AM and the weather was definitely rough to say the least. I made my way to the dozer and filled it with gas. I needed to cut down all the trees where I was going to build my new home outside West Point. Killing all the undead on the road was really just a bonus. I made it about 80% of the distance when I ran out of fuel again, and it was right before the military checkpoint. Finally, I started my first official construction on my new house. This was a dense forest, which is why I chose the location. I'll need a bitchin' ton of planks to build a whole house. I cleared a more direct route along the river to the bridge so I can have options should I need to escape. I parked the dozer and set up camp. Here you can see where my house is going to be located should you want to follow my steps. It's a pretty good location, top shelf shit. Returning to the military checkpoint, I needed to get a car to get the trailer.
Oh my god, it's on. Oh my god, there's a... Yes, please.
I filled her up and was on my way.
Zombie kill of the week. His name is John Cena.
And his name is John Cena!
Then I crashed and flipped the car.
Oh my.
I walked the rest of the way with a little bit of shame over my head and filled up all my gas cans and propane tanks. This was the last time I was going to have access to fuel for a while. I wanted to check the southern military checkpoint outside of West Point for guns and clothes because winter was so close I could feel it. Day 129, after I finished looting, I made my way back to the construction site. I made it there and began setting up lights for the generator and for the construction to begin the next day officially. I sawed some logs and ate a couple carrots right before heading to bed. Day 130. Well, it was the beginning of the construction day and we had our first snow to cover to make things that much more dire. I started with the outline on the ground floor, and needless to say, folks, this wasn't exactly designed for such a big river. So, like, the smaller piece was supposed to be a single garage turned into a nice storeroom. Day 131. I filled in the ground floor and leveled up my carpentry. Later, I began setting up walls and my stairs to the first floor. That night I got told I was being raided. So I ran upstairs, broke the access block, and started sniping the intruders. My guess is they must think I'm more geared than I actually am. I had to fall down and prayed no bones would break to deal with the last raiders. Day 132, I got started on the paving of the outside of the home, followed by more solid walls for the ground floor. I worked on the first floor a bit when I accidentally fell. I was hurt bad, but still no broken bones. I went back and being much more careful this way. Day 133. Sawing logs, zombies would wander into the construction site, much to my displeasure. I started placing down the door frames and internal walls of the build. Day 134. We got started building the glass windows finally. I worked on the exterior roofs and could color code them for everyone's ease of seeing which level we are at in the base. Day 135. After finishing the first floor tiles, I got started placing railings as to avoid any more accidents.
No! Oh, for fuck you sake.
Yep, I forgot about the erosion of the glass planes, so I would have to reinstall all that glass. I built up the railing on the bridge, and yes, it's glass, and it's solid, because I think it looks nice. I'm still an architect, guys. This shit gets me harder than telling contractors where to put their bricks. I heard shots and assumed I was under attack again, but when I checked the area, there wasn't anyone around. I started installing the glass, which was what the bridges of the main building was. Glorified storeroom, essentially. Day 136. Without sleeping a wink, I sawed logs by my fire and got to choosing which carpet goes in my gym. After that, I started building the counters for my kitchen and a nice open plan with an island in the middle. Ah, modern as shit, man. Then I got started on the final roof level, which would be blue. I was being stingy with my fire fuel because I didn't want to use too many logs to be burnt up if I didn't have to. Day 137, I started installing furniture I had on hand today. Some would not last forever until I could loot from in town the stuff I needed. I also put my childhood poster in my bedroom, which had quite the trip so far, I won't lie. I moved the generator to its external spot and connected it up. There's no power or fresh water, so I essentially am living as if the power's already gone out. I moved my floodlights into the building because I needed to scavenge lights from the town as well. I started moving my loot from the trailer into the house that night. Day 138. Return of the Loot Goblin. Day 139, I was looking a little worse for wear and I had moved most of my loot. I figured now would be a good time to recharge my batteries, so to speak, with actual rest. I installed a red buffer on the first floor roof so I could put turrets up there to protect the base. Day 140. I started work on the railings up there, so tonight once it was done around 2 AM, I could go to sleep. I hooked up my trailer because now I needed small things like lights in my base, and you know, a bed would really help. All of which I hope to get from a military checkpoint in town. I wanted to check out the militia training camp that was on the other side of the river from my base, and I could admire my base from afar for once. I slowly made my way to the auto repair shop outside of town that night. Day 141. Our raid on the auto shop is going well. We got lights, some pieces of furniture, but most importantly we got our hands on nails and screws. I started placing the furniture and equipment to start filling out the base. Day 142. Just after midnight I made a huge mistake and the bad decision counter begins. Bad decision number 1, going to sleep in a freezing cold room. Yep, I got a nasty case of the sniffles. I didn't think it was too bad, so I went foraging around the base. I wanted to install some fireplaces, so I needed stones. I realized to build the glass walls I wanted, I would need exterior balconies in order to build the walls. But I could convert them into planter boxes at a later stage. I had to cover up my beautiful water feature, and I figured let's go balls deep into the greenery. Bad decision number 2. Falling asleep next to a volatile fire in a non-enclosed room while sick. Day 143. I couldn't sleep, so I figured I'd just sit by the fire till the sun came up. Then I continued the planter boxes experiment. Bad decision number 3. Don't repeat bad decision number 2. Day 144. Bad decision number 4. Don't wash your clothes at 2 AM while being a sicky poo. Bad decision number 5. Don't smoke crack to get better. Day 145. I still wasn't better yet, so I figured I'd make and place my turrets on the roof finally. Then I went to my medical room to try to figure out what to do. Bad decision number 6. Opening a brick of Disney snow for medical purposes. Then, right on schedule, I found a raider on my doorstep. I want to say he drew in so many zombies, but in all honesty, it was probably the double pneumonia I had that was drawing them in. I read on Google's that if I have a braai in my room, it could warm me up, so I kinda just took a chance on it. I transferred loot to the next day. Day 146. Listen, I don't know why I had fuel drums in my medical room, but I imagine it had something to do with meth, so I'll count it as another bad decision. I was feeling a bit better, so I started cleaning up the bodies around the base. I figure it's a good point to show you all the skills that I've progressed in. I replaced my broken glass windows and went to bed at 7 PM because I was just so done, bro. Day 147. You had a fast car. I got a plan to get us out of here. Looting petrol cans and parts right before I went on a little murder rampage. Yeah, I just picked a bunch of fights, clearing up the side of the tracks. I think after so long of building and them being sick, I just needed to blow off some steam. Day 148. I found another Humvee in a parking lot outside the No-Tell Motel. Considering my murder spree, I managed to make a perfect circle of zombies. There was a few houses on the south side of the West Point I wanted to loot for furniture and food supplies. I figured one of the reasons I went down so hard with that cold was the lack of diverse food. So I got all the cans I could find. I really like these blue couches. I'd never used them in real life, but for my modern house it could be a pretty decent addition. Finally, I got a double bed for my bedroom. Oh, excellent. Every now and again, I'd come across a big group of zombies that I had no choice but to delete. I really don't want to kill all the zombies. Without the NPCs, I kind of get lonely, you know? While I was cooking, I heard some books drop downstairs, so I ran to see what the kerfuffle was. And sure enough, it was a person. I immediately pulled my gun on her. I really don't want to kill all the zombies. Without the NPCs, I kind of get lonely, you know? After she left, she drew on me, so I had to defend myself, so she got away, and I got shot in my foot again. She escaped this time. Day 149. I started placing down the furniture and replacing my glass windows I shot through. It really was my fault, so this is just work I made for myself, honestly. I figured I might as well install a door to the flowers since I'd be breaking that glass so much. That night I moved my floodlights to the roof for the sight purposes. Day 150. I tried to finish up the railing on the roof, then I decided to fill my pots with dirty river water for cooking up some stews. After my Master Chef lesson, I moved my fuel drum to the roof by the generators, and I wanted to make another fireplace in my room. The bride just wasn't hitting the aesthetic like it does in IRL. I fueled that bitch up and sawed logs into the next morning by the fire. Day 151. I needed to read the next metalworking book to clear the bridge north of me. I also realized I hadn't checked my inventory in a long while, so I spent some time sorting it out. Day 152. I woke up super early so I could read a skill book and was on to collecting the materials. I made up to the bridge when I realized I forgot my tools to actually do the job. Like clockwork, I was clearing wrecks in no time. I collected the scraps and made my way home. Day 153. After slapping the loot into the boxes, I went to sleep around 4 AM. I decided I wanted to order a pizza and burgers for myself. I needed that shit after 153 days. Don't judge me. I thought I heard something, but when I investigated it was all quiet, so I read some novels instead. Day 154. I woke up early and read some more, and then I wanted to fill my petrol cans in town. It had been a hot minute since I had fresh fuel, so this was a great day. I also wanted one of these big fridges. This was the best investment ever, I'll say that right now, hands down. I pulled up to the warehouse across from the streets because I figured it was mostly clear and I wanted more materials. Day 155. I finished grabbing up the materials from the warehouse and figured it would just be easier to grab the Humvee now. I took her down to fill up at the garage and parked her up at the main road by the robot. I worked my way through the exterior of the town because I wanted to grab some desks from an office building that is known for it being a shithole of zombies. I looted some books and made my way home. I started organizing the base, and jugs of water from the water machine were invaluable right now. Right before midnight, I placed down my new desks. Day 156. I installed my new fridge and put the food in real quick to keep it fresh. I had a banana and carrot before going to bed at 4 p.m. Day 157. I slept until around 1 a.m. and figured I could walk to the robot where I left the Humvee. I started planning my driveway to my house until I walked right past the robot. I wanted another car from the parking lot nearby. I thought I saw a nice Toyota. And sure enough, there she was. So I hooked her up, and we made our way to put petrol in. After we was done, I cruised home and got to sorting the loot from their boots. There was quite a fair bit of zombies around the yard, so I had to deal with them swiftly, painlessly. I got started collecting logs for the next phase of our home project until finally I had some stew at midnight. Day 158. It was driveway day. I wasn't looking forward to such a long and tedious project, but it is what it is. I even made sure I had enough space to turn if I wanted to reverse into my parking slots. In the middle of it all, I got uneasy, and for sure it was raiders. They looked like they were Black Ops team coming at me. I took out as many as I could, then I fell back to the glass bridge. It was a pretty good defensive spot, but most importantly it had cover. I wanted to make sure I got them all, when two of them that were hiding jumped me and shot me again. I've taken so many bullets these past 50 days, it's disgusting actually to think about. I sacrificed my window from my bathroom to stop them, and when it was clear I could finally perform first aid. I looted their bodies and washed off the blood from the gear that I took. Day 159. We killed a total of 17,800 zombies on the dot as of today, and 85 bandits. Not too shabby in my opinion. I started collecting them bodies around the base because we have been here so long, they're beginning to turn into skeletons. It's a little bit unsavory to look at. Then I got to continue my driveway. I figured a nice metal grate by the house and a lighter pavement would look nice. Day 160. I finished sawing logs at 4 a.m. and went to sleep only to wake up around 2 hours later with just enough rest. I finished up the driveway and cleared any remaining bushes and trees. I plotted out a farm for myself for some fresh veggies and collected any materials that were lying around. I finally finished the railing and plumbed my sinks and toilets today. Day 161. Today I wanted to install my new floors around the base. By midnight I was in a rough shape, but I did level up my carpentry. Day 162. At around 5:30 AM I went to bed and started loading up my magazines for my rifle. Day 163. Loading up my box mags, I could sleep at 3:30 AM, but when I woke up, there was no rest for the wicked. Day 164. I wanted to upgrade my mechanic skills, so I went to the one place where I knew there was still cars that were one bad day away from being wrecks. I built another fireplace in the lounge and fueled it up. Day 165. I read my mechanics tutorial book and promptly returned it to my library when I found a book on maintenance to read. Day 166. I woke up around 6:30 AM and had to handle some zombies around the base. I handled some base maintenance and then figured I should have more cars at the base to trade my mechanic skills on. I had a pretty nasty crash today, but nothing was seriously injured except my pride. Day 167. It's a banana for breakfast kind of day, so it's gonna be a good day. Good day of reading and training mechanics, that is. Around midnight, it was finally time to hit the hay. Day 168. I woke up early to finish my latest tutorial book and decided I needed to stock up on decent food. Afterwards, I traded my mechanic skills and wanted to test out my 1911 handgun. I heard shouting from the military checkpoint. Day 169. Nice. I scored 2 new generators and figured I could use one for my V4 Power Core 9000 XL fuel-injected building engines. I needed some more items from the auto shop when I ran into another raider on the road. I cleared the area and was 10-4. I upgraded my cars with chains from the snow to the void crashing. Day 170. I discovered I had a mod that allowed me to make electrical lights today. I don't gotta scavenge everything you see. Oh, I'm smart. Day 171. I started leveling up my mechanic skills long into the night. After I finally got some rest, I thought, you know what this bed needs? Pillows. All of the pillows. I wanted to get more engine parts when I crashed again. Yeah, I broke 2 bones in the accident. My foot and my upper left arm. I was cooked. This was gonna cause unnecessary stress for the rest of my life. I can feel it. Feeling the shame, I started cleaning up the trash around my base, and in -6 degrees, it seemed like a pretty good time to start planting and watering crops. Day 172. I woke up at around 3 AM and burnt the corpse pile I had amassed since I got here. Just before 7 AM, I didn't realize the temperature dropped so low in time. I immediately got a runny nose, and I was pissed, eh? Luckily, I'm a pro at this, so I knew I needed a pot of soup, warmth, no crack, a few days, with a lot of rest. Day 173. I woke up really early to set up my 6th station in my armory, when I heard voices across the river. I dealt with the threat and reloaded my spent mags. Now, it was time to read and rest and recover. I felt better, so I cooked up a storm in my kitchen. Day 174. That night I wanted to clear the bridge and I could work on the cars at my base. I never knew this menu was a thing, so I was amazed and immediately started reading all the books I hadn't read. Well, the ones that I had on hand. I did forget to mention that I burnt myself when I was torching the corpses the other day, but when the day was done, I was less for some stew. Day 175. At 2 AM I went to sleep and made a new car door shield. I left all my ammo in the store so I could arm up my postal van for a little trip I was planning. Day 176. I had a weird moment with this guy Colin at the military checkpoint. Pretty sure I just got SH'd. I was getting furniture for an outpost I wanted to set up in Maldro, but that meant a lot of prep work. I had to be able to stash supplies, a bed, and fortify a small building in town. A generator and water barrel, even turrets would be safe. I stopped by the old base for wooden planks that I had left behind in a cabinet that I knew of. I was surprised to see my old crew were living there, out of the ruins of the base. It made me a little sad to think my friends were holding onto the past like this. I found this little cafe that was perfect for an OP. But I got to work setting it up. At night I had to refill my water, but the only place I could find any was at the inn. Day 177. I had the last of my supplies and finished up OP, but when I approached the bakery, I drove right into some kind of turf war on the main street. I had been shot, but I recognized the crew. I had completely forgot about the others and how they had my ticket. I had to pull out there because there was just too much happening. So, right before I headed back to base, I had a little nap in the van. Well, half of my mission was a success. I can place down the plants in the planters back at my base. Day 178. It's Christmas, mother fluffers. I needed petrol, but I had to clear out the roads to get there, so I kinda just had fun with it. Engine parts are the new hard dollar, bros. Then I thought to myself, you know what I want for Christmas? I want my motorbike back. That's been out there all this time. Finally, just before 10 PM, I had my bike back, and that bike really does define my adventure. Day 179. After so much excitement, I wanted a day just to rest and recover for a little bit. I had to read the next first aid book. I feel like it's a book that nobody has ever read. I'm really starting to like my stews, bro. This game needs a wiki mod though. Day 180. Yes, I'm not above googling the PZ map to look around. I'm on a 200-day schedule, guys. The snow was really starting to come down now, but I wanted my blue couches and nothing was going to stop me getting them. The problem was I was going down main road of West Point, so there was plenty trying to stop me in all honesty. But I had 45-ish magazines of 5.56 rounds and 3 rifles with suppressors. I stopped for lunch in the post office and thought, man, those are nice post boxes. As the day turned into night, I really wanted to even out the fighting, so I switched to my machetes. But at 10:20 PM, I was kind of tired and no couch, so no leave. I blocked the entrance of these offices with these filing cabinets and found a bunch of drugs in the drawers. Like, holy shit kind of drugs. Day 181. At 11 AM I was back on the streets and wanted to chuck my duffel bags of stuffs in my bucket. I wanted to take all the pot plants back from the bank, but there was a very real blizzard outside. Eventually I made my way into the police station, but the best part was now I had a bunch of SWAT gear for protection. I found a key into the armory and got a decent amount of weapon parts and rifles for myself. After I hit the locker rooms, I was set with protective clothing for the foreseeable future. I found a police car, and I figured it would be a great way to draw zombies out of the buildings around me. That night at midnight, I was fighting down Main Street over hundreds of corpses and bullet casings. Day 182. I looted a store and wanted to RTB, but the main road was blocked by so many undead. I decided to go down south around the garage to head home. Back at base I sorted loot out, and at 7 AM I could finally sleep in my own bed. Not an hour later I woke up with a bad feeling. However, the raiders were on the far side of the river, luckily. I did some laundry and ate cake while I checked out my stats. 20,186 zombies murked so far. That night, I started preparing weapons. Day 183. I needed a diversity of caliber and weapon systems for the future. I packed so many magazines of 45 single stack, MP5 mags, standard 5.56 mags, and box mags. That night I went to bed just before 10 p.m. Day 184. I found a little abandoned campsite near the house, but there was very little use for items there in truth. I had to separate my now custom weapons from my spare weapons in the armory. Now I just needed to have a little New Year's party for myself. I thought, you know what would be lacquer? A killing spree. And I knew just the horde that deserved my attention. Day 185. I continued having my party in West Point when I felt an overwhelming sense of panic. I ran for cover, and in error in judgment, I jumped through a broken window full of glass shards. Looking like a suicide case, I patched up my forearms. To fight the raiders, first I had to quietly deal with the zombies. That's when I saw them. I used the wall as cover, but my MP5 attracted the attention of the undead variety. Once the raiders were dead, I had to deal with the zombies drawn to the gunfire. I needed a little break at 5 in the morning, and when I got ambushed in the postal backroom. Thankfully, I have so many layers on, it's not easy for them to bite through. One day, I want this wall vault. It looks cool in my opinion. I went through the bank for plants and furniture from these apartments. I tried to keep as quiet as possible, then I found this kidnapper's van and I was like, dude, this is awesome. I filled her up and took her halfway home. Once I was back home, I placed my loot down into the new year. Day 186. Man, that blue couch is power. I started to gear up for a new project I had been flirting with for the past couple weeks. Then I actually did farming in 0 degrees weather. Yeah, I know. I loaded my MP5 mags and went to bed. Day 187. I continued sourcing furniture and supplies and loading them up into my spare trailer. I spotted a raider heading to the checkpoint, so I turned him into pink mist. At the point, I collected most of everything that I needed. Finally, at 4:30, I hooked up my trailer and got on the move. First things first, the West Point garage will be an outpost. I sealed up the windows and had to mess up the zombies just to the left. Each outpost needs storage boxes, turrets to keep a clear perimeter, a stretcher and shelves. Day 188. The point of these outposts is to always have a fallback position that are safe away from our main base. Just before 5 AM, we were done with this OP and had to move on again to the next OP to set it up. At the northern Maldra military checkpoint, I thought I smelled smoke, and sure enough, there was a forest fire. See, Maldra has just bad fire juju magic, I'm convinced of it. Back at the old base again, I needed the rest of the planks I had left behind for my build projects. I traveled the back rooms and stopped at a raider house, so I couldn't live with myself if I didn't just murder them in cold blood. Made my way to the bakery OP and immediately set up the turrets for safety. I decided to use the OP and sleep there that night. Day 189. I have unlocked a GPS and it is awesome. I wanted another outpost on the other side of Maldro because it's such a long town. I figured this little diner near the garage would be a lacquer use. I just had to clear out like 1,000 zombies to use it. Easy day. Once the zombies were gone though, I was being attacked by a group of raiders. The gunfire attracted zombies from the tree line and soon they were swamped by the undead. Then I had this idea to injure the raiders and let the zombies finish them off. Like, they were forming squares like in the Napoleonic Wars to fight, but I had a submachine gun. The last of the raiders ducked into the trees. I didn't want to distract too many zombies from their hunt, so I macheted my tail to death. Even the turned raiders weren't spared from my wrath. Okay, let's just pause for a second. I literally fed people to zombies. Am I the bad guy? Like, guys, I shot to wound, not kill, then led the zombies to them as they tried to limp away. It's kind of fucked up, you gotta admit. Back to my quest, I set up the diner outpost, and once it was done, I wanted to clear out the garage of all the zombies. It was quite a lot though. Day 190. I found this fire station in Maldro with this cool old Bucky outside and I wanted it. I kept trying to hotwire it, but I was constantly being interrupted by zombies. I cleared inside and filled up with petrol, and when suddenly a group of raiders attacked me. I ducked into the fire station for cover. I needed to reload and they pushed me and I took multiple bullets to my ass. Deserved karma, I suppose. I patched myself up as quick as possible because my gunfight brought hungry, dead people. After barely surviving, I found this sick truck by the garage and parked it by the outpost. I unloaded supplies for the next OP and was on the road again. I rolled up on this forward operating base and it was loaded with undead still on watch. I had to clear a path through the FOB. Exhausted, I managed to make it through, however. I made it past Ridge March and was on my way up to Rosewood from the southern approach. As midnight drew closer, I came up on this annoying fence. Just had to take out like 100 zombies. Easy day, man. Day 191. After I dealt with the real zombies, I turned my attention to the fence. There's nothing quite like making your own path at 2 in the morning. Yes, I wanted to use the prison as my OP for Rosewood. Don't get me wrong, I know it's one of the most dangerous places to go in any playthrough, let alone an insane zombie population one. But with 191 days under my belt, it was still a very dangerous place. Suddenly I started taking fire, presumably from the direction of the Humvee. I took a round to the right shin and my head, and I was bleeding out fast. With my broken bones, lots of stitches, and cuts on my body, it looked more bandaged than flesh. I had to perform emergency first aid in the parking lot, and I would constantly get attacked. I believe my attackers had in fact succumbed to their zombification, so I could take the Humvee deeper into the prison. I needed a foothold in there, and there was only one way to get it. I collected the undead and started using my MP5 to clear them out. It's always a little bit surprising just how many undead are in these walls. I switched to my machete blade to conserve ammunition because I can't blow a whole load on just the front door. I made entry and the halls would be my beautiful Picasso of blood and gore before the day was done. One does not simply walk into Kentucky prison and survive. There are always more zombies behind, more corners, and there's always another corner. The fact that there were zombies in civilian clothes meant that there was a breach in the prison walls somewhere, but I had to focus on the moment. By the afternoon, I brought myself a moment of rest to clean my clothes and body, but only a moment. As I made my way through the pile of corpses, I made entry into the common room. There was still sheets placed over the windows that I needed to be removed in order for my sightlines. I will say, do not attempt this at home. This requires 150% attention and reaction speeds, and even then, you never know when you're going to get flanked. One wrong step and you're the main course. By the time I had the lights on, I knew I would attract all the undead across the infinitely long hallways. I had to clear to the best of my abilities. The zombies will always push you back to where you came from, so always make sure your back foot is clear. I decided the risk was too great to turn this place into an OP. There's just too many inside, too many places to clear. I'll make use of this FOB someday, but for now, I was to retreat to my secondary objective of Rosewood. Day 192. The secondary objective for a suitable OP, if you guessed the garage, you'd be right. However, when I arrived on scene, a small bus terminal had an alarm going off, thus calling every zombie around to my location. I never imagined it would be this severe on the outskirts of town. By my guess, there was at least 3,000 zombies on tap, but I had a plan. I don't like using fire, I find it cheap as far as methods go, but I mean, I needed this horde gone. First and last time I'm using a Molotov cocktail, there was no fire visible. Then I saw a little bit of hope. If I could just walk these fools over there, it may still work. Desperation began to set in, however. With so many injuries, my melee attacks were just not doing the damage I wanted. I was low on ammo, and if I got attacked by raiders, I'd have at least 4 mags left to survive. And then suddenly, they were all on fire and I needed them away from the very explosive fuel vapor. By 4 AM, the fields around the garage looked like a battlefield. I could take a rest and have some brekkie in the garage bathroom. Kinda sticky in there, not gonna lie. I had to set up the OP, but I was out of wood, so I had to source the planks locally. Once I started setting up the turrets, a whole new kind of shitstorm was about to be unleashed. Within the hour, we were being swarmed and they had numbers. They just kept coming and I just got genuinely worried about losing my life. My playthrough for Rosewood, of all places. Rosewood? Then the zombies discovered my staircase and I had a little bit of poop come out, I swear to God. Day 193. I was really in rough shape, and this staircase had become the Battle of Thermopylae. The undead had destroyed my doors into the petrol station, and I didn't fancy a lot of dirt getting inside. Finally, after a grueling day of fighting, I went to sleep on a mattress at 9:30 AM. Suddenly, not even an hour passed when I woke up with an unwavering feeling of panic. There was raiders outside my outpost and I had no choice but to use my sidearm in the firefight. After a quick nap, I found a sneaky gal who must have just thought I had loot. Unlucky for her, I had none to spare. I started feeling a few of these cars around the outposts, including this 49 Dodge. It's a really cool old bucky. Once the sun had set, I'd noticed the bus terminal may be some kind of abandoned base for a group of raiders. Sure enough, there were hostiles inside. Perhaps they had a large group go out for supplies and I moved in when they were gone. That would explain why I suddenly got attacked this morning. I hooked up my trailer and wanted to see if I could use some of the back roads to get home. Day 194. Waking up around 3 AM, I was on the road again, but now I was on undiscovered roads. Ever so often I would have to stop to clear out the pack of undead I had attracted. I wanted to take the back roads until I ran out of back road. There was a forest in front of me, however, there might still be a path inside that I could get to. The path was totally overgrown, and there was a mountain between me and the other main road. I had to double back to the Humvee and started checking out these small buildings on my way. I came across this little cul-de-sac, but it was completely overrun. After I cleared out the hordes outside, I wanted to loot inside for anything useful. I managed to scrounge up enough eggs to basically have an omelette, an egg stew, and an egg roast. A hot meal would be very welcomed after so many days. Day 195. After resting in the bedroom, I was back at it, looting the remaining structures before trying to head home. I tried taking the path, but it was heavily overgrown, and there was always a string of zombies behind me. The path was blocked, so I had to double back. I wanted to make it to the outpost in Roseburg to form a new plan. I would pretty often have to stop to cut down trees in my way and continue onward. Eventually I came up on the road by Rosewood, outside the construction lot, and wanted to have a little peek. Back at the outpost, I started loading up our Dodge. The Humvee just wasn't suitable for cross-country traveling anymore. Day 196. I hopped in my Dodge with the trailer attached and I would have to take the hardware home. This meant the road was going to be congested at all times with the zombies that I made on my way here. It was a constant uphill battle, burning through weapons like you cannot believe. Eventually, I was past the Ridge View nightmare and was on the open road again. It feels like a lifetime since I went through this military checkpoint at the first time. One thing I realized on my way back, I was leaving a wake of dead wherever I go. Something to really consider. Finally, at 11 PM that night, I made it back home. Day 197. I'd like to point out that we went all the way to the prison for a treadmill and a bench press. That's so dumb. I had to do some base maintenance just to make sure that the ship was smooth sailing. I don't want things to just go randomly wrong, because they always can. Day 198. On this lovely cold day in January, I was being attacked across the river, so I made use of my sniper, and some range practice was always welcome. After I was done putting on some clean clothes, I wanted to take some time to prepare good old-fashioned stews for myself. I also restocked my fireplaces around the base and checked out what I would need for armor for my 49 Dodge Bucky. Day 199. I installed some of the armor on my car but needed to sleep at around 3 AM. I can always continue in the light of day. I decided to make egg and oyster stir fry. I don't know what to do with that information. I noticed I used a lot of blowtorches on the road the past few days, so it was a solid plan to refill them. However, driving to the station, I noticed a fire had started by the military checkpoint, and those flames were huge. If that fire jumps the road, my whole ass base is going to be destroyed in minutes. Onwards to the garage, the refuel was complete and I wanted to test out my hand crossbow. Because I have one of these, like in real life, and it's awesome as fuck. I returned home and grabbed my 249, for the day doth grow lateth, and there was a bunch of baddies on the other side of the river. Day 200. It's always a great feeling, starting the day off by shooting at people, and I noticed a familiar face in the crowd. It was Judith. I met Judith on day 9 of the outbreak, and once we were separated, I assumed she was dead. I never imagined at this point that almost 200 days later we would be pointing guns at each other. I looted their bodies and made my way home. Finally at 8 AM I could sleep the day away. I spent some time just going through what skills I would need to research in the future and doing dishes and basic prep for what 303 days may look like in the future. Day 201. I slept the entire day away. That's what I did. Day 202. Today I was gonna party real hard, yo. I laid out beer, I set up lines of snow on the table. I was gonna party like it was the 1920s. It was the final day of my 202 days, and this was quite literally the challenge that I set out to do. I was under attack, and apparently they had a helicopter. Yes, I was being attacked by people who got dropped off by a helicopter. All I had was my sidearm, and I was still very drunk in this firefight. I really didn't imagine I would be mopping blood off of floors before 6 AM. I was hungover and I was dumping bodies in the road when out of nowhere I got panicked again. I was literally caught out in the open. So I did the only logical thing and I ran away. I was on the offensive, so I got my offensive weapon. I was deeply annoyed. This was happening on my last day.
My birthday party.
And hey, you can't say I didn't fight till the end, right? I fixed my base, dumped the bodies, did some far clearing. And finally, it was the evening of day 202. So I wanted to get absolutely shit-faced and have a little rest before we head into 303 days. $25,071 zombies killed, 171 bandits. My stats have come a long way since I started this playthrough with no skills 202 days ago. I want to say thank you for coming with me on my journey of 202 days. And yes, there is still a lot to do in this world with Hannah the Stripper, so I'll see you soon.